What's up, snobs? Shane here to give you my thoughts on A Quiet Place 2. With Memorial Day weekend happening right now, this is kind of the unofficial start to summer and the beginning of the summer blockbuster season. We haven't really gotten big summer movies in 2 years now, and so hopefully this is the beginning of a summer blockbuster season to remember. We're talking about A Quiet Place 2. John Krasinski's back, Emily Blunt is back, Millicent Simmons is back, the monsters are back, and most importantly, summer movies are back. The first Quiet Place movie came out a couple years ago and really caught people by surprise. Everyone was kind of impressed by John Krasinski's ability to go from being this comedic actor to directing a really well-done thriller. And so this movie has been highly anticipated for many people, this follow-up to see, can he do it again, or was it just a one-hit wonder? And this movie was the first major film to get pushed back when the pandemic hit last year. This movie was like days away from coming out when the pandemic hit and theaters shut down. And so this film has been ready for a while and it's been building anticipation since then. And so it's only fitting that this is kind of the one that starts the summer blockbuster season this year, since it didn't get the chance last year. The film is about this post-apocalyptic world where these alien creatures are wreaking havoc on the earth, and they are attracted to sound. They hunt by hearing, and so the entire world has to remain quiet. Otherwise, these creatures will come and find them. And this movie picks up literally right where the first film left off, like seconds after the first movie finishes, this movie picks up. And so it follows the main family as they kind of journey out into this world. It's kind of a broadening of what we saw in the first movie. So let's start by talking about what didn't quite work for me in this movie. I think the biggest thing that this movie suffers from in the negative category for me is that it just feels so similar to the first film. I think what worked about the first film is, we hadn't quite seen anything like that. It was able to take a lot of familiar things and do them in a new, fresh, original way. And, John Krasinski's been open about the fact that first movie was really about him becoming a parent and realizing how scary the whole world is now that you're in charge of a child. And, that film comes out very personal, and you can tell that heart was put into the first movie. The second film still has a lot of heart, but it just kind of suffers from being too similar to that first film. The story is fairly similar. There's a lot of beats that will remind you of that first film. This is the inherent challenge of doing a sequel, is that we've already seen this world. We've seen these characters. We've seen these monsters. What else do you have to show us? And I think they are restrained. They didn't introduce some crazy twist where there's actually a bigger alien that's, that would have been goofy or undermine the first film. Nothing like that happens. But the movie just isn't as new or fresh or original as the first film, as you would expect from a sequel. Additionally, I think, the movie's pretty short. It's only about an hour and 40 minutes. But even that, it felt like there was 2 or 3 subplots that could have been cut. This very much feels like part 2 of a trilogy. I am assuming that they're going to make a third film. Hopefully this movie does well and they get the opportunity to do that. And maybe once that movie comes out, we can reevaluate the second one in hindsight. But this very much feels like we know where point A is and we know where point C is, and so we just have to go through point B to get from A to C. But there's a lot of inconsequential stuff that happens that could have been cut. And in that, there's a lot of movie logic. There's a lot of, in horror movies, characters act a certain way where you as the audience go, no, don't go in there, don't do that. And that's intentionally done to make you, react that way. But there's a lot of that in this movie where characters just do things that you go, no, don't do that. Why would you do that? What person would ever make the decision in that circumstance? And so, it strains believability in some of the ways that the characters act. But overall, the negatives weren't super strong. For me, the main point of what didn't work for the film is that it just didn't quite have anything new to add. There's a little bit of an evolution in some of the characters and things like that, but for the most part, it kind of felt like, did we really need this? Isn't this more or less just the same as the first movie? That's what didn't work. Let's talk about what did work. This film is very similar to the original film, and because of that, it has a lot of the same strengths as well. That first movie does such a great job with the concept. It's a cool premise that these creatures hunt by sound, and so everyone has to be quiet. There's inherent tension and drama in that because as people we tend to be noisy, and the first film introduces a baby which has no control over the noise it makes and all of that, and it's kind of the perfect engine to drive a story. And so this film really benefits from the premise. There are always going to be great opportunities for jump scares when your setup is the way that it is for this film. You have, long stretches of silence where all the characters are trying to be quiet, and it's just a matter of time before someone messes up and makes a loud sound and the creatures come. And it's a great way to build tension. And so the movie succeeds on that front. I think the film also does a really good job of not relying on cheap jump scares. For a movie that is built around this concept of jump scares when, there's noise, it does a really good job of being restrained and going for actual earned scares instead of cheap, easy, gimmicky jump scares like so many other films do. And so I respected that this movie, wanted to do better, and I think it achieves that. Also, the acting in this film is very good. In the first movie, that was part of what carried it, is that these aren't just generic people getting killed by monsters. It's a family that you care about, and all of the family members were well acted in the first film, and that's the same case here. They also add Cillian Murphy to the cast, and he's great as always. He has a pretty interesting character arc. He kind of fills the John Krasinski role that is left open after the first film, and so he was a good addition to the cast. Also, Millicent Simmons really gets the opportunity to be the lead in this movie. This is really her film, and I haven't really seen her in anything else other than the first Quiet Place, where she's very good. And so I wondered, could she do that? And definitely she is strong enough in her acting ability to carry this film. You care about her, you invest in her, and really this is her story. And I thought that was something that was good. As I mentioned earlier, the first film is very much about a father realizing how scary the world is and how hard it is to protect your kids in this world. Well, the second film is kind of the reverse of that. The second film is about the world from children's perspective. Now that dad is not here to protect you anymore, what do? Who do you become? How do you step up and become your own person? And so in this way, it's kind of a coming of age story in addition to being a creature thriller. I thought that was, a strong element and an interesting way to give us a new take on this story. That's what worked for me. I thought overall, the positives outweighed the negatives. If you enjoyed the first film, I think you're going to like this one. In summary, I thought this movie was pretty similar to the first one. It had a lot of the same strengths, if you like that first film, I think you're going to like this movie. If you liked those characters in the first film, this is an evolution of those characters. It's the continuation of their journey. And so, for that reason, it's worth watching. It didn't always justify its existence to me. There's some things that happened that made me go, oh, was that really worth it? Did that have to happen that way? Is, this fictional world better off for the decisions that these characters just made? But it sets up a third movie that hopefully will bring the trilogy to a satisfying conclusion. The reason I'm wearing my Jaws shirt for this video is because there is a Jaws reference in the movie that you can catch as an Easter egg. At the very beginning of the film, in the background, you'll notice that there's a pizza place named Brody's, which is, of course, the main character from Jaws, and that gets paid off later in the film with a plot point that I appreciated that reference. Every movie that is, a big summer blockbuster or an unexpected thriller horror movie directed by a first-time director, it always gets compared to Jaws. Get Out got compared to Jaws. A Quiet Place got compared to Jaws for those reasons. And so, both of those directors' next films with Us and now A Quiet Place 2 both reference Jaws. And so I thought that was fun. I enjoyed that. So check out for that Easter egg. Anyway, I thought that this movie was worth watching. If you like the first movie, go see this one. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It was a fun time, and it's just great to be back at the theater. It's great that summer movies are back. And so, for that reason, I am giving A Quiet Place 2 3 stars out of 5. Thank you so much for watching this review. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you check back often because, like I said, we're in the middle of summer movie season now, and so I'm going to be posting a bunch of reviews every time that there's a major release. You don't want to miss that. See you then.